Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Hour number 2 of this 3-hour show. Jackson Lightcap alongside Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder. Matt, you're dancing over there. You're vibing on this Saturday morning. Jon, your picture is still just staring at us menacingly.
I've been dancing just because it's pretty much something every single time that intro music is playing. I'm always bobbing my head back and forth because I feel like it's some pretty decent intro music for us to come back to. So I'm always going to be bobbing my head to it. You can like it if you like it.
You should see him dancing during the break.
Let's not do that because I can't dance at all. But I just like having fun.
Nonetheless,
I'm always staring.
The thing is, I can't see that picture, but I know exactly what it looks like. So you saying that is like, oh boy.
yeah. You've seen it so many times that you just memorize my face.
It's burned into my mind.
It's one of those pictures that show up in my nightmares.
No,
it's like a horror movie. I'll be asleep, and I'll be running through something, and next thing I know, it's not a murderer that pops out of my dream. It's that picture of Jon that just starts sliding towards me.
You talk about running, it makes you think you're trying to run away. You feel like you're going fast, but in your dream, you're walking at like half an inch an hour, it feels like.
It just creeps closer.
It's just the picture sliding towards you. It's not like it's like moving, like it's taking steps. It's just sliding across the grass.
I would say it's time to get a new picture, but then it would just there'd be 2 pictures chasing me. It's already been so ingrained into my brain.
I think it's time to talk some football because I think we're getting a little off track here, boys.
Time for a break. Time for some football. We're moving into Division 5. Region 20, the Valley View Spartans avenged their regular season loss and their lone loss on the season to Waynesville, 42-24. Valley View back in the state Final Four for the second consecutive year in a row.
And yeah, during this game, I'll say this much. I initially was going to pick Valley View. I decided to, for whatever reason, because I still think I should have picked Valley View in this one, I decided to go with Waynesville, but you just take a look at what Valley View was able to do throughout the entirety of the game. Waynesville only outscored them in the third quarter. 14-7 was the score margin in that third quarter going towards the Waynesville Spartans. But outside of that, the score margin was 14-7 in the first quarter, 7-3 in the second quarter, 14-0 in that fourth quarter. So pretty much just consistent dominance by Valley View from start to finish in this game. Like I said, obviously, they did get outscored in that third quarter, but it was only by a touchdown. And then they went ahead and scored 14 unanswered points in that second half, or in that fourth quarter, I should say. So this Valley View Spartans team, because they're both the Spartans, I had to clarify, but this Valley View Spartans team just showed why they are one of the top teams in the entire state of Ohio for Division 5, facing off against another team that's towards the top 10. I think they're 9th last time I saw. But when it comes down to, they were number 9, Valley View number 6. But just goes to show why this Valley View team, obviously, they've already lost once to Waynesville this season. This is one of those games, though, they only lost by 9. This was the kind of game that fits that scenario of it's going to be tough for Waynesville to take down the Valley View Spartans twice in the same season. And Valley View proved why that was the case last night.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why I had picked Valley View in my games. Is it was going to be really tough ask for Waynesville to knock off Valley View twice in the same year. And it just turned out that Valley View had almost an ideal start, getting out about 21-10. The score was at halftime. Obviously, Waynesville getting back in it, but Valley View just having enough on the offensive side of the ball to keep pace. And actually, I should switch up my take a little bit. Waynesville did actually take the lead about 10 minutes to go in the third, but then Valley View ended up going right back to their normal dominant ways and keeping Waynesville off the scoreboard for the rest of the night as they pick up the 42-24 win. So very solid win for Valley View. Moving on to the state final four, a team that even early on in the year, I know you, Jackson, and I both kind of agreed that Valley View was in with a shot at the state title this year. So very good performance from the Spartans.
This is a Valley View offense that's averaging 46 points per game. 46 points per game. And guess what? When you take a look at their numbers through the regular season, this is a defense that is only allowing, let me do the math, trusty calculator, 16 points per game. They're outscoring their opponents 46-16 on average per game. The Valley View Spartans, they're legit. They're here to stay. They're going back to the state Final Four. On to Region 19. 4 seed Harvest Prep, they take down the 7 seed Wheelersburg Pirates 22-0. And Wheelersburg, that Cinderella run for the Pirates will come to a close.
And yeah, that's the last remaining team. There were 2 teams in the southeastern area of the state still alive, being Wheelersburg and Reedsville Eastern. Both of those 2 teams now out. There's no more teams from the southeastern area of the state left alive in this postseason. And Harvest Prep played Wheelersburg earlier on in the season, won that game 32-16, but it seemed like the Warriors knew what they were going up against. They knew what they had against them with this Pirates team. And like you mentioned, the Cinderella run for Wheelersburg, you had the feeling that it was possible for them to take down Harvest Prep with all the mistakes they made in Game 1, but the Warriors, they did enough to win this game and move themselves into the state semifinals.
Yeah, and Wheelersburg, one of the lowest seeds in the state of Ohio to make it to the regional final, and not the lowest, obviously, as we'll get to what the lowest seed was in terms of making it to the regional final a little bit later. But yeah, Harvest Prep just at this point they knew they took those mistakes from Game 1, and they realized that, look, we need to clean this up, and they did. So the 22-0 win, again, another shutout. So great win by Harvest Prep. So and they recognized that they needed to clean up the mistakes, and they did. So it was solid performance going into state Final Four.
Yeah, and you look at what Wheelersburg's been able to do. They were your state champions back in 2017, and then again in 1989, 8-time regional champions. They were trying to go for their 9th one, and ultimately just a tremendous season for Wheelersburg. They once again they entered the playoffs at a 7-3 overall record as the 7 seed, and Wheelersburg absolutely stunning quite a bit of teams along their way as well. But their Cinderella run comes to a close. Congratulations to Harvest Prep. We've been high on Harvest Prep all season long again. Harvest Prep, top team in the state. They're going to the Final Four. Region 18, Liberty Center, they take down the 6 seed Coldwater 17-7.
And yeah, that was a low-scoring game between both the Tigers and the Cavaliers, but you just take a look at the early stages of the game, it was pretty much, it wasn't completely dominated by Coldwater, but they were able to get the very first touchdown of the game, their only touchdown of the game, with 8:44 to go in the first half. So first quarter scoreless, first touchdown wasn't until 8:44 in the half. And then with 3 minutes left to go in the half, Coldwater has the football. Big old number 75 for Liberty Center. Defensive lineman gets a pick 6 to tie the game up, tied it up at 7 apiece going into the half. And then the start of the second half, 89-yard touchdown drive for the Tigers. The Cavaliers, they had chances to try to get themselves back in the game, but 4:06 left to go. Field goal by the Tigers pretty much sealed the deal, especially with the fact that Coldwater immediately after ended up turning the ball over on downs with about 3 minutes to go in the game. So this Cavaliers team, we talk about how good MAC schools are. When you face off against one of the top teams in the entire state of Ohio for your division in Liberty Center, as the number 2 team in the entire state of Ohio, who has 5 votes to be the number 1 team in the state for Division 5. There were 8 votes behind Perry for that number 1 team. Coldwater, the number 5 team in the entire state of Ohio for Division 5. You knew it was going to be a close game. The MAC conference just a little upset that Coldwater wasn't the team to come out on top.
Yeah, but with I will say this, though, in Coldwater's defense, Liberty Center has only scored less than 35 points 2 times this year. Once against Wayne Trace earlier this year. Actually, wait, never mind. I'm wrong on that. They have not scored less than 35 points in a game this year. So a very dominating offense, a defense that has also played incredibly well for Liberty Center as well. So an unfortunate loss for Coldwater, especially with the expectations of MAC schools hanging over their heads. But Liberty Center is a very, very talented football team. And with the resume that they had throughout the regular season, it's not surprising that they made a state Final Four.
Yeah, Liberty Center, what they've been able to do this season, a historical run for Liberty Center. They're the number 2 team in the state of Ohio for a reason. And when you look at Division 5, guys, we've talked about it multiple times on this show. Division 5 football could be the most competitive division that we see through all 7 divisions in the state of Ohio. And that is ultimately coming into fruition because you have Valley View going to the state Final Four. They're the number 6 team in the state of Ohio. Harvest Prep, the number 8 team in the state of Ohio, going to the Final Four. Liberty Center, the 2 team in the state of Ohio, going to the Final Four. And then last but not least, Region 17, number 1 team in the state of Ohio, Perry. They blank Canfield South Range 32-0. South Range, this was a team that was in the state championship game a year ago, and Perry just coming into this one and blanking them. That proves dominance for Perry. And to be honest, if I'm being honest with you, with how great Valley View's been this year, with how great Harvest Prep's been this year, with how great Liberty Center's been this year, I don't foresee anybody taking down Perry.
And yeah, that was the biggest surprise to me in this entire division. You take a look at South Range, obviously the Raiders, they're going to lose some players every single season, but you take a look at the 16-0 team last year. They faced off against Ironton in the state championship game and put up 53 points, won that game 53-27. And then against Perry, who they beat 49-21 in the postseason last year, they get blanked 32-0. That was one game that, at least in Division 5, I expected to be a little bit closer. I expected a majority of these games to be super close. I did not expect the biggest margin of victory being in the Perry game versus South Range, but just goes to show what Perry's got, what they're bringing to the table this season, why they are such a good team. This Perry's Pirates team, they deserve to be the number 1 team in the state of Ohio for Division 5. There's a reason they are the number 1 team in Division 5 in the entire state, especially when you take on number 8, South Range, and win by 32 points. It goes to show why this Pirates team is such a good team and why I would say if they're able to take down Liberty Center, I don't really see a team. Obviously, they wouldn't have to play Liberty Center unless both of them make it to the state championship game. But in Division 5 right now, I would say the only team that, with how good the Pirates have been this season, I'd say Liberty Center might be one of the, if not the only teams that really has any say in taking down Perry this year.
I mean, what a performance. I mean, Perry just, anytime you get a shutout at this stage, it's incredible. Anytime you win by 30 plus at this stage, it's incredible. Anytime you blank a state championship appearing team last year, it's incredible. So really great performance from Perry.
And when we go into the state semifinals, the Final Four, we will see Perry square off against Harvest Prep and Valley View square off against Liberty Center. Time for a break. Division 4 coming up next when we return to Sports Now.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Back here on Sports Now, Jackson Lightcap, Matthew Pennington, and the king of snaring, Jonathan Snyder. We welcome you here to this Saturday show. Let's move on to Division 4. We'll start with Region 16. How about this run from the Alter Knights? The Alter Knights, they're your regional champions. They're heading back to the state Final Four. It's been a couple of years since they've been there. They took down and blanked Wyoming 17-0. And when you look at what the Alter Knights bring to the table, I don't think anybody expected them to get this far in the postseason outside of the Alter Knights faithful.
Yeah, I did not expect Alter to make this kind of run in the postseason. I expected him to be a team that maybe made it to the regional semifinal game and then got knocked out. I was expecting him to make it to Clinton Massey and then get destroyed by Clinton Massey. But since then, I mean, that's the other thing you got to take a look at for this Alter Knights team. You talk about how good they've looked so far this postseason. They've allowed 9 points so far in this entire postseason. And it's not just that, they've only allowed 9 points. They've played the number 1 team in Division 4 in the entire state of Ohio, and they just took down number 8 in the entire Division 4 for the state of Ohio. So the fact that they've only allowed 9 points so far this postseason, only 3 of those points coming to teams inside of the top 10 in the entire state of Ohio, it just goes to show why this Alter Knights team is such a good team this season and why this postseason run is such a good run for the Alter Knights, because you take a look at the regular season. They were a 3-loss team at the end of the regular season, lost to Fairmont, they lost to Trotwood, and they lost to Baton. Those are the 3 teams that the Alter Knights lost to. Since then in the postseason, 42 points against Roger Bacon, 31-6 win against Indian Hill, 21-3 win, or 31-6 win against Indian Hill, 21-3 win against Clinton Massey, 17-0 win against Wyoming. This run right now for this Alter Knights team, it's not a fluke. I didn't expect it to end up playing out this way, but this Alter Knights team, they've got Steubenville their next matchup, but this Knights team, it's been a phenomenal run for them so far this postseason.
Yeah, I haven't really expected them to get this far either. But this is the Alter Knights, their defense has hit a level that I didn't think was even possible. Like holding your total defense to 9 points through the first part, through the regional bracket, is incredible in and of itself. The fact that they had against Indian Hill, a very solid program, the number 1 seed in Region 16, Clinton Massey, and a Wyoming team who has always had a very high-powered offense, and holding them off and practically blanking them, just incredible.
Yeah, and the Ultra Knights, this is a team now that has just pitched their 5th shutout on the season, and there have only been 5 games this year where the Ultra Knights have allowed double-digit amount of points. The Knights have been absolutely incredible on defense all year long, but they're playing their best football right now. And Matt, going back to that Clinton Massey game, I talked about this a little bit on the Thursday show. One thing that that helped them beat Clinton Massey was they know the triple option. They play and open up the season with Fairmont every single year. And Fairmont, for the last 7 years under head coach Dave Miller, has run the triple option. Alter, they're used to it, and that's why they were able to go out and take down Clinton Massey. Clinton Massey, a triple option threat, and that's exactly what Alter was able to do. They were able to stop the running game because they're used of seeing that. This is an Alter Knight squad, and they are underrated, a massively underrated squad as the 4 seed. But I will say this, one of the reasons why they've gone on this run is because it seems like this defense has played every style of offense in the books. They've played the triple option before, such as Fairmont in the regular season. They've played an air raid team such as Baden. They've played a run-heavy team such as CJ. They've played a quarterback scrambling offense and a balanced offense such as Trotwood Madison. They've seen, it seems like, every single style of offense that you can run out there through the regular season. So when it comes postseason time, since you've played some high caliber opponents and a lot of Alter Knights opponents this year, they've been playing up a division as well. Fairmont, they're Division 1. Trotwood Madison, they're Division 3. Bellbrook, they're a higher division as well. The Alter Knights, they've played a higher division. They've played almost every offensive scheme in the books. So when you look at the defensive side of the football, Alter, they are battle tested. They are ready to go.
And yeah, that's one thing too that you also have to look at and take into account when it comes to this Alter Knights team and talk about how they've been able to play so far in this postseason. Talking about the points, we've been talking about the defense, obviously 9 points through 4 games in the postseason. That is phenomenal. But when the score margin for your team is plus 102, they've scored 111 points so far this postseason, and through 4 games, you have scored 102 more points than you've allowed so far this postseason. It goes to show why this Alter Knights team is such a good team. They've scored 111 points this postseason, and they've allowed 9. That is a recipe for success. That is a recipe for a deep postseason run, and that's why when you take a look at those numbers, it shouldn't be surprising at all that the Alter Knights are in the state semifinal game.
Moving on to Region 15, number 1 seed Steubenville. They take down 2 seed Thornville Sheridan 14-7.
And yeah, it was a close game between both Steubenville and Sheridan. It played out the way I expected it to. I expected Steubenville to come away with a win just because of how tough of a season the Big Red have put together so far this year. I mean, you take a look at their one loss to Ursuline, a Division III team, a division that's a step up, and then you take a look at the entire schedule. They had 1 game in state against a Division IV team. That was against Cardinal Mooney. They won that game 21-14. Outside of that, they were playing up a division, or they were playing teams outside of the state of Ohio. So this Big Red team, not too surprising that they were able to make the postseason run that they've made so far this year. Sheridan obviously falling just a bit short, but with how the Big Red have played so far this season, the tough competition that they've played all year, it's not too surprising that they've made it to the state semifinal as well.
Yep, Steubenville have had a great run. They've played with some teams close. Last 2 games have been really close, but if they can win close and they can win dominant, as we've seen early in the bracket, Steubenville with a very solid performance this postseason.
Yeah, Steubenville, they are certainly a team to beat right now, and they've put together a terrific season in Division 4 as well. Steubenville, excited to see what they can do here in the state Final Four. Moving down the list to Region 14, Cleveland Glenville. They take down the 1 seed Sandusky Perkins 36-26. And when you look at the top 10 teams in the state of Ohio for Division 4 football, Perkins, number 3 team in the state of Ohio, Glenville, the 5 team in the state of Ohio. This is a Cleveland Glenville team that is coming off a state championship in Division 4. And when you look at the overall record, it's not what you're used to seeing by Cleveland Glenville, but Then you go and do some further digging and some further diving into their schedule, and they've played one of, if not the toughest schedules in the entire state of Ohio. Cleveland, Glenville, they played that tough schedule to square off against top teams such as Perkins. And again, we mentioned Perkins, when you look at them, they're the number 3 team in the state of Ohio for Division IV football. And Glenville, they beat them by 2 scores. It wasn't like it was a 1-score game. They beat them by 2 scores. Cleveland, Glenville, don't get the seeding confused. Don't look at the AP poll and get this confused. Don't look at their schedule and get it confused. Cleveland, Glenville, in my mind, they are the favorites to win Division IV and that state title.
And yeah, that's one thing with this Tar Blooders team that you have to keep in mind, and you just mentioned it, Jackson. You take a look at the schedule that they've put together so far this season, talking about teams having a good out-of-conference schedule, talking about teams scheduling against some pretty tough teams. You take a look at what Glenville's been able to do. A team out of Virginia and Dinwiddle, they won that game 36-13. You take a look at the losses that this Tar Blooders team has on the season. One loss by 8 points to a Division II team in Avon, who is 14-0 right now. Another loss in state to Archbishop Hoban. Lost that game by 12. Archbishop Hoban, 12-1 right now. The only other loss that the Tar Blooders have on the season is to IMG Academy out of Florida. One of the top teams in the entire country for high school football. A Division I college football athlete factory, it feels like, down there in Florida. The amount of talent that IMG Academy produces and puts on stage for Division I football, for Division I basketball, baseball, every single sport IMG Academy will produce Division I talent for college. So the fact that Glenville did lose that game by 22 points, but it's still a Division IV team in the state of Ohio facing off against one of the top teams in the entire country. So this Tar Blooders team, you brought up the fact that probably one of the toughest schedules in the entire state of Ohio. I could second that. Glenville's had a pretty tough schedule so far this season.
Not to mention Glenville pitching 3 shutouts in the regular season as well. Here's a funny coincidence, though. They beat Perkins 36-26. Glenville's varsity basketball team played that same day. They just so happened to play the Perkins Pirates. Guess what the score was in that game?
Let's hear it.
36-26. So very funny coincidence.
Are we sure we didn't get the basketball score written down instead of the football score?
No,
I can promise you I was right. But very hilarious coincidence, but still a very solid program that Glenville have had, especially playing teams up in divisions. So very solid performance.
Low-scoring basketball game. Let's move on to Region 13. Number 1 seed Canton South. They take down the 16 Struthers 35-13.
And yeah, not too surprising seeing Canton South win that game by as much as they did. Obviously, number 4 team in the state of Ohio being 10-0. They kind of got the feeling that with how good of a season they've had, they might have been snubbed of being a top 3, maybe a top 2 team in the entire state of Ohio, seeing as how Perkins, Steubenville, and Clinton Massey were all ahead of them. But Canton South, it's a team that has been on a lot of watch lists for teams to make a good postseason run, for a team to be dominant in the postseason. 35-13 win is a pretty big win for Canton South to move them on to the state semifinal.
Yep, and a very solid performance from them. Very solid performances all year. It's kind of funny. You look at Canton South and some of the performances they had in the regular season. You wouldn't quite nothing that would set the world on fire, but still a very good team. But yeah, Canton South, a very, very good program. They were number 1 seed for a reason as well. So them making the Final Four, very solid job by them.
And when you look at the Final Four, we will see Glenville square off against Canton South, and then Steubenville face off against the Alter Knights. Time for a break. Division III coming up when we return. We're halfway through this 3-hour show. You're watching us on the TKDS Sports Network. Sports Now. We'll be back.
Every day, we find ourselves on a path full of decisions.
It's me.
Sometimes small and sometimes big. Sometimes alone and sometimes together. At McAfee, Everything we do is done with your comfort, health, and convenience in mind. She always wanted the best for you, and now you can rest knowing you've provided the best for her. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down. Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Jackson Lightcap, Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder, we welcome you back to Sports Now. We're talking some high school football, and let's move on to Division III. Division III, we'll start with Region 12. The number 6 seed, the Salina Bulldogs, they stun the 1 seed, Baden Rams, 37-25, and Salina is back in the state Final Four.
And yeah, that is a huge, huge, huge win for this Bulldogs team. I mean, if you had me take a guess on who I would have expected coming out of this region, I would have said I would have expected Baden to probably be the team coming out of this region. Maybe would have thought Tip City might have had a chance. Maybe would have thought Trotwood had a chance. Maybe Wapakoneta had a chance. But we talked about Region 12 probably being the most up in the air and the most open region, at least in the southwest area of Ohio. It showed that to be true. The number 6 seed, Salina Bulldogs, they're the team representing Region 12, and they're proving the point that we made at the start of this postseason that Region 12 is going to be a dogfight. It's going to be up in the air from the top 6 teams. I had it going into the postseason at the top 6. There was a chance that any of them could have won. I was expecting Baden to be that team to do it, but Bulldogs proved me wrong. They're now the team representing Region 12 in the state semifinals.
A lot of people were, and with very good reason. The Baden Rams team that had almost ran through the GCO co-ed. Obviously, some talent in that conference as well, but for Salina, with their postseason run, knocking off Trotwood Madison and Tip City, just an incredible run for Salina. And it's prepped them well for Baden, and they managed to pull off the win, especially by double digits. So Salina going to the state Final Four and then pulling off a solid upset to do it.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned that the top 6 teams in Region 12 ultimately had a chance to make the state Final Four. I didn't think that Salina had a chance. When you look at what Region 12 was all about, I thought that I'll be the first one to admit I did not count Salina having a chance, but they certainly proved me wrong. And the Salina Bulldogs, that's a team that's coming from a tough Western Buckeye League. The Salina Bulldogs, they're legit. They're here to stay. But I want to shift focus on the Baden Rams. The Baden Rams, after losing the state championship a couple of years ago, last year, remember, they were playing with the chip on their shoulder, undefeated all the way through the regional final, and then they ended up losing to Tip City. Then this year, it seemed like they were playing with the chip on their shoulder, and then they lose in the regional final to Salina this year. The Baden Rams, it just seems like that's a good football team. That's a very good football program. But over the last couple of years, they have not been able to get over the hump and get back to the state Final Four, including coming off a state championship loss a couple of years ago as well.
And yeah, you talk about what Baden has struggled with since that state championship loss a few seasons ago. It's slowly been, obviously last year it was same game, this different team that they faced off against. They had a chance of facing off against the Red Devils again in the same game that they lost to Tip City a season ago, but Salina was the team that took down Tip City a game and a week prior to last night. But I mean, you talk about Salina, the one thing that the Rams, they can feel somewhat good about is the fact that they were clawing their way back into the football game. They were down, I think, anywhere from 9 to 11 points at one point. I know they were down 2 possessions, but then clawed their way back within a few points, and then a later touchdown in the game for Salina pretty much put the game away and put the game on ice. But like I said, you got to feel pretty, if you're a Bulldogs fan, you got to be very proud of what your guys have been able to do so far this postseason. And if you're a Western Buckeye, if your team is in the Western Buckeye League, you got to give props to what Salina has been able to do so far this postseason, because I had Salina as a very slim chance of making it and being the team representing Region 12, but it wasn't completely impossible for them to do it. Like I said, they were, to me, there was maybe a 2 to 3% chance of being the team that was representing Region 12. And I had I would have said it was probably a 30 or 40% chance that Baden would be the team to represent the region, but Salina, they're the team coming out of Region 12, and they deserve, with how good of a win and how good of wins they've had these past few weeks, they deserve to be that team coming out of Region 12.
I am so proud I picked Salina. But regardless, yeah, it was Baden, a very solid team, had a scare, to be honest, against Wapakoneta last week, and with Salina's great wins, that was my judgment when it came to picking Salina. But still, Baden, a very solid football program, but needing to find that extra gear somewhere. And it's always the toughest part, is finding that little bit extra to make your way to either state Final Four or to a state title game. So the toughest step is yet to come for Baden, but still a very good program.
On to Region 11, Bishop Watterson. They take down the Chieftains of Bell Fountain. And Bell Fountain, their terrific run and their Cinderella run through the postseason will come to a close. Bishop Watterson moves on to the state Final Four for a 19-13 victory over Bell Fountain.
And yeah, obviously Bell Fountain would have loved to have been the team to come out of this game, but I mean, you take a look, you talk about it being a Cinderella run for this Chieftains team. I mean, you take a look at the teams that they have had to play so far this postseason. London, a top 10 team in the entire state of Ohio. They were ranked 6th in Division III at the end of the regular season's AP poll. And then the very next week, they had undefeated Granville, who was number 10 in the entire state for Division III football. So this Chieftains team, obviously, they would have liked the outcome to have been a little bit different against Bishop Watterson last night, but losing to the number 4 team in the entire state of Ohio for Division III football as a 7 seed and as a team that wasn't even considered to be close to a top 10 team in the entire state of Ohio for Division III, this Chieftains team, they've got to be proud of the postseason run they put together. Like I said, taking down number 6, taking down number 10, being within a touchdown of number 4 when you end up getting knocked out of the postseason. This Chieftains team, they've got to be proud of what their team was able to do this postseason. Like I said, you would have liked the outcome last night to have been a little bit different, but Bell Fountain, you can't hang your heads low after the postseason run you went on. It was a great run for the Chieftains. I said it's just unfortunate for Bell Fountain that it had to end last night.
Yeah, and it's a tough ask for anybody to go over Bishop Waterston, especially with some of the games that they've had, and pretty much the only loss being to St. Francis de Sales and divisions above them. So just an incredible performance from the Bishop Waterston Eagles, an incredible football team that they have. It's a tough ask to beat them, and the fact that Bell Fountain even played them close is an achievement in and of itself. But yeah, Bishop Waterston, just a great football school. Bell Fountain has a lot of talent on their team, but unfortunately just not quite enough.
On to Region 10, the 1 seed Toledo Central Catholic. Remember, they were in D2, they ran the table, and now they dropped to D3 this season. They destroyed the 3 seed Tiffin Columbian 41-6. And once again, Toledo Central Catholic, no question about it, they're back in the Final Four.
Yeah, no real surprise here that TCC is moving on to the state semifinal. I mean, you take a look at what this Fighting Irish team has done so far this year. We talked about Glenville having a really tough schedule. You've also got to take a look at what the Fighting Irish have done so far this season. They have only played against teams that are up a few divisions or up one division. They had 2 games against Division 2 opponents, and then they had 3 games against Division 1 opponents. A majority of those Division 1 opponents, the only one that wasn't above 500 is St. Ignatius. Outside of that, Findlay and Whitmer were the other 2 teams inside of Division 1 that the Fighting Irish played against. Findlay, 8-3. They won that game 47-14. Against Toledo Whitmer, 7-4 on the season. They won 35-8. Outside of that, they played a ton of teams out of the state of Michigan. Only close game was a 28-23 win against Warren De La Salle out of Michigan, who's 7-2 on their season. So this Fighting Irish team, there's a reason they are the number 1 team when it comes to Division III football in the entire state of Ohio, and there is a reason they are the favorites to win the state title for Division III. They proved it against Tiffin Columbian with that very dominant win in the Region 10 final game.
Let me tell y'all about a story. Coming from someone who lived in Toledo, the expectation was that the Fighting Irish would be going deep into the regional tournament every year when they were in Division 2. That was the expectation. You drop them to Division 3, and all of a sudden, it's no surprise to me that the Fighting Irish are running the table right now. So it's going to be a very tough ask to knock them off, and Central Catholic is, I think, going to still roll through and take the Division 3 state title, but I could be wrong.
Moving on to Region 9, Chardon takes down Ursuline 31-14.
And yeah, I've talked about Chardon a few different times so far this postseason. The number 7 seed in Region 9 being the team that is going to represent the region when it comes to the state tournament and when it comes to the state semifinals and potentially even a state championship game. But it's going to be tough for them to make it because they've got TCC as their opponent. But I've talked about how historic and how well-known this Chardon program has been when it comes to the postseason. Couple state championships for this team. Really good, dominant team and dominant program when it comes to high school football in the state of Ohio. I mean, I'm just trying to pull up and trying to see exactly what their postseasons have been like in recent memory. There's a lot of C teams on the OHSAA website. That's why it's taken me so long to try to find them. I have to scroll through a few different pages trying to find it. All right, I found it. Taking a look, 3 state titles for this team back in 2020 and 2021. 8 total, now make it 9 final state semifinal appearances for this Chardon team and just this Chardon program. there's a reason that I was super high on them when it comes to Region 9. They've proven to live up to that hype and live up to that expectation, because it's not too often that, obviously, in the Southwest region, you've got teams like Marion Local, but with the type of competition we've seen in Division III, it's not too often that you're going to see a team 3 of 4 years make it to the state semifinal games. So not too surprising that Chardon was able to take down Ursuline last night, and they've got their ticket punched to the state semifinal. Like I said, the only tough part, though, for this Hilltoppers team, they've got the Fighting Irish for their very next matchup.
Yeah, just to some, you don't expect a 3-loss team in Chardon to be able to make it to the state Final Four, but just a solid run for them. A very, very good team and a very underrated team, it looks like. At least if the seeding has anything to say about it.
Chardon will
Just
score.
an incredible performance from Chardon. Going to be a really tough ask to beat the Fighting Irish, but Chardon can hold their heads high after this season.
Sorry, John, didn't mean to cut you off there. Chardon will square off against Toledo Central Catholic in the state semifinal, and Bishop Watterson will square off against Salina in their state semifinal matchup. Up next, we'll go regions 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's Division 2. That's all coming up next here on Sports Now.
Help with Gigi?
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down.
Go. It's okay.
Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir, I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Back here, Jackson Lightcap, Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder. We are 5 minutes away from officially entering hour number 2 of this 3-hour show. We are live until 11. Let's move on to Division 2. Region 8, Anderson, the 1 seed, with a big win over the Withrow Tigers, 49-28. And Anderson heading back to the state semifinal. Anderson, they were in the regional final a year ago. They lost to Kings in Region 8 in that regional final. The Anderson Raptors, they lost a terrific senior class, including their quarterback from a year ago, Griffin Scalp. But Anderson, the key to success for the Raptors this season, they were able to replace those guys that left, and they were able to fill the shoes. And what a terrific season for the Anderson Raptors as their season continues back into the state tournament.
And yeah, one thing that this Raptors team did well, obviously, the offense played pretty good with the fact that they had 500-plus total yards in that game. But another thing that this Raptors team did good, what's one player that we've been talking about consistently for this Withrow Tigers team pretty much throughout the entire season? Chris Henry Jr. 6 catches, 47 yards total in that game against this Anderson Raptors defense. So the Raptors, they knew what they had to do to slow down this Withrow Tigers offense. They knew what they had to do to make Chris Henry Jr. a non-factor in the game. Obviously, 6 catches for 47 yards is not a horrible night, but for Chris Henry Jr. numbers, that's not that good of a night either. But like I said, the one thing that you gotta feel pretty confident about and you gotta feel pretty happy about is 12.2 yards per pass play on the night for the Anderson Raptors. And then the running attack, 53 rushing attempts for 221 total yards, averaging 4.2 yards per carry. This Raptors team, at least on the offensive side, they pretty much did every single thing right and every single thing perfectly. The only part that might have been a little bit of an issue was the 8 penalties for 65 yards, but no turnovers, 66% conversion on 3rd down, 66% conversion as well on 4th down in that game. They only missed 1 4th down conversion. They missed 5 3rd downs, but they had 15 attempts to try to convert on 3rd down. You just take a look, 514 yards as well. Obviously, the Raptors defense would like to rather not allow almost 400 total yards of offense. Withrow had 399 total yards in that game, but when your offense is able to put up 514 yards and your defense is able to force Luke Dunn into throwing an interception, the Raptors pretty much did everything that they needed to do. Obviously, they did everything they needed to do. They won the region. They're moving on to the state semifinal, but to beat a very, very good Withrow Tigers team by 21 points, Anderson did everything right last night.
35 points in the first quarter for the Anderson Raptors. Also, you mentioned a couple of people on the Withrow Tigers. Hello, Justice Burnham, QB for the Raptors. There's 16 of 19 for 249 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's one of the most efficient performances we have seen in the state of Ohio in general. So just an incredible performance from Burnham as a whole. And again, it's led the Raptors it's kept that high-powered offense, which we've mentioned before. It's kept it going, and it's led them to a state Final Four appearance.
Yeah, John, not to mention the Raptors. This is an offense this season through 14 games who's averaged 42 points per game. They have a high-powered offense. That defense, sneaky good as well. And, one thing that's interesting, we're going to get into all the other regions here in Division 2 as well. One thing that's interesting for Division 2 is it is the only division in the state of Ohio where every number 1 seed from each region will punch their ticket. We see Anderson, Massillon, Washington, Avon, and Hoban all punching their ticket to the state semifinals. So that's really going to make for a great state semifinal and a great state Final Four. And let's move on to possibly the favorite to win the entire state championship this year. I'd argue it's between them or Hoban. Massillon, Washington, they take down Green 31-6 in Region 7. They're your regional champs for Region 7.
Yeah, it's been talked about a ton of different times so far during this postseason, during the regular season, as to one of the teams that is more than likely to make it at least to the state Final Four, potentially even being crowned state champions at the end of the regular season. I've talked about a ton of teams so far this year, and at least during the show, that scheduled very tough out-of-conference games. They've scheduled... You take a look at what Massillon has scheduled so far this season. You've got 4 out-of-state teams, only one of those teams below 500 being Elkhart out of Indiana, who's 3-7, playing Valdosta out of Georgia, one of the most winning teams, high school football programs in the entire country. Massillon is also in that conversation too. And then you've got Middletown out of Delaware. They've got St. John's College out of Washington, D.C. You just take a look at the type of competition that Massillon has played so far this season. That's not even mentioning the in-state opponents that they've played. They played Glen Oak, 7-5 on the year. 56-7 was the final score of that game. Glen Oak, a Division I team, by the way. Mansfield Senior, 10-3 on the season, a Division III opponent, the only team that the Tigers have played that is a division lower than them. But if you know high school football in the state of Ohio, you know Mansfield Senior is always a team that's making a good postseason run. 51-10 was the final score of that game. And that's not even all. The icing on the cake was a 15-13 win against St. Ed's, the number 1 team in Division I football in the entire state of Ohio. They won that game 15-13. If this year isn't Massillon Washington's year to win state, I don't know what year this Tigers team can win state if this isn't their year to win it. But like you mentioned, there's still some pretty tough teams that they're going to have to deal with, and some pretty tough teams that could stand in the way of the Tigers to winning a state title.
And not to mention, Massillon, Washington, their kryptonite over the last couple of years, Hoban. And Hoban, I know I'm jumping around, a big win over Wash Jesuit in Region 5, 30-6, but Massillon, Washington, and Hoban, there's a chance that we could see these squads meet in the state championship if they both win their state semifinal round. But when you look at it, what has Massillon, Washington's kryptonite been? Archbishop Hoban. The question is, will that trend continue, or is this a year that Massillon, Washington can break that trend and win the state championship? Because like you said, if it's not their year to win the state title for Division II, I don't know what year it will be for the Tigers.
If I may jump in.
I'll let you jump in,
I apologize,
John.
Matt.
No, you're good.
So, I was going to talk about that, Jackson. Yeah, the past couple of years, Massillon, Washington's biggest problem has been Archbishop Hoban. Last year, Archbishop Hoban took him down to go to the state title game, and again, so it's one of those teams where if it was 41-20 last year. Sorry, I was just trying to find the score. But Archbishop Hoban has had Massillon Washington's number in these past couple of years. And with how Massillon has played this year, again, with the resume that they've had, as Matt has mentioned, like Jack said, it has to be the year, right? Like, this is one of probably the best chances they've had. Oh, and by the way, if you're to believe some of the social media that's been going around, some of the crowd at that Massillon Washington game started chanting, "We want Hoban" at the end of the fourth quarter. So there's some hatred there as well.
On Region 6, we saw Avon. They took down Highland 28-14.
And yeah, this Avon Eagles team so far this year, 14-0 on the season, a close game against Highland, but you just take a look at the schedule and you take a look at how good Avon has been so far this year. They've pretty much punched up all season. The only game they didn't punch up was against Glenville, who is probably going to win state for Division IV. So if you take that into account and keep that in mind, this Avon Eagles team has just been absolutely dominant all season long. And talking about the fact that they've been punching up, if not playing teams in Region 6. They've got 4 games against Division 1 opponents. The closest game they played, and this goes to show how good Glenville is, the closest game they've played between their 5 games against teams in the regular season that were in Division 2 and the 4 teams they played that were Division 1 teams, the closest game they played was against Glenville, being that 8-point win. So 1, that goes to show how good the Glenville Tarblooders are, and 2, that goes to show how good this Avon Eagles team is when you face off against former Division 4 state champions, the favorite to win it this year in the Glenville Tarblooders, and that's the closest game you played all season. It was an 8-point win. This Eagles team has played a phenomenal season. They've got a tough game coming up, though. Outside of that, there's nothing bad to be said about this Eagles squad. They have looked dominant all season long.
Yeah, you take a look at the regular season, as Matt was mentioning, they probably have one of, if not the best resume for Division 2, and it's made a massive case for Avon in the Division 2 tournament. So it's going to be there's a lot of teams that could definitely knock them off, especially in a division where all of the number 1 seeds have made the state Final Four. But Avon has a very good resume. Hoban has a lot of history on their side. Anderson has a really high-powered offense, and Massillon Washington probably has their best look over the past couple of years. So it's going to be an entertaining state Final Four to be certain about that.
And when you look at the state semifinals, we will see Massillon Washington square off against Anderson, Avon facing off against Hoban. And not only is this the only division where every 1 seed has punched their ticket to the Final Four, but you look at the AP poll for the state of Ohio, number 1 team in the state of Ohio, Massillon Washington, 2, Avon, 3, Hoban, 4, Anderson. Those are your 4 teams representing the regions in the state semifinal tournament. So nonetheless, the state tournament for Division 2 is going to be action-packed, and I'm excited for it. With that being said, time for a break. Division 1 talk coming up next when we return to Sports Now.
It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hey!
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe, and I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Hour number 3 of this 3-hour show.
Like, it's how big my hand is. I'm touching
Hey,
the
don't touch
TV.
my face.
I'm not touching your face. I'm touching the TV. That's touching your face. I'm touching the TV right now.
Matt's over here picking your nose on the TV, John.
I didn't. I poked his... Yeah, that would have been mean. I would have poked his eye.
Don't make me come down there. No.
When you say don't make you come down here, are you talking about the picture just sliding into the studio room?
He's going to slide off the screen towards me.
If I had that kind of magic, I would have done it already.
One of these days, April Fools, our show for April Fools, he's just going to play a joke where he's going to come back to the Dayton area without us noticing, get a hold of a key to the studio, and then just...
He's going to put that picture, like, he's just going to copy, like, and just, like, print off, like, 30 to 40 pictures of that, and he's just going to post it. He's going to put it on every single wall around the studio. That would be hilarious.
I'm still recovering from college. I don't have that kind of money to afford that paper.
We're giving him ideas we shouldn't be giving him.
Nonetheless, you guys are too much. Let's move on to Division 1. Division 1, Region 4, we saw the 5 seed, the Moeller Crusaders. They blanked Lakota West 22-0, and Moeller once again heading back to the state semifinal.
And yeah, Moeller was one team, especially when you take a look at the AP poll. I was talking about this team should have easily been a top 10, maybe even a top 5 team in the entire state of Ohio. They were only, if you continued from 10 on down, they were number 12 in the entire state of Ohio. They received 13 less points than Centerville. Centerville had 34. Moeller had 21, going towards being a top 10 team. So The Crusaders weren't inside the top 10, but they're proving why they should have been a top 10 team in the entire state of Ohio for Division I football. A 22-0 win over Lakota West, the 5 seed, moving on to the state semifinals. There's a reason this Moeller Crusaders team, they've been so dominant and they've been so good in recent memory. They're continuing that streak. They're continuing that momentum. But they've got a familiar foe. I'm not going to say who it is, but they've got a familiar foe in the state semifinal matchup.
Yeah, and Moeller's a team. I think if I look back at what all of our picks were, I think we all expected this game. I didn't expect it to be a shutout, though. Moeller's defense has been incredible in that game. So just being able to shut out any opponent at this stage, as I've said before, is an incredible achievement. And Moeller has had a very, very great performance and the very real chance at potentially making a state championship appearance. They are playing against Springfield, so it'll be a very tough ask, but it's a very talented group that Moeller has, and in particular with some of the offensive performances Lakota West has had, a majority of their games over the 30-point mark, and it's a very good performance from them.
Yeah, and you mentioned they're going to be playing the Springfield Wildcats, and this is a matchup that has really become a big rivalry between Regions 2 and 4 over the last couple of years. The Moeller Crusaders the last couple of years have gone up against the Springfield Wildcats, and it just seems like the Springfield Wildcats have been the Crusaders' kryptonite, and we'll talk about Springfield here in just a few minutes, but it seems like it has not been their year. But at the same time, they're the 12th seed. They limped into the playoffs because they were hurt through the regular season, and they've put together the best run of any team in the state of Ohio from a lower seed. They're the 12th seed going to the state semifinals. Absolutely hard and insane to think about that. But when you look at what Moeller brings to the table, I'm going to kind of compare them a little bit to Massillon, Washington. To me, it feels like this is Moeller's season to get back to the state championship and possibly go for a state title. And if that doesn't happen this year, the question is, when will it happen for the Moeller Crusaders? Because it seems like everything this year, they've played the tough schedule. They've played the very tough out-of-conference schedule. They've played the very tough teams in the state of Ohio and outside the state of Ohio. They've played in the GCL South. You have teams in the Southwest region that have been down this entire year. So that means the question is, can Moeller take advantage of this, and can they overcome their kryptonite against the Springfield Wildcats?
And yeah, the one big part to this Moeller Crusaders team is he was a phenomenal running back a season ago. He's not had as big of a workload. He was a little bit less than 50 yards short of being a 2,000-yard rusher last season. He's now currently 131 yards away from a 1,500-yard rushing season. But one of the main backs for one of the best teams in the entire state of Ohio, the Moeller Crusaders, Jordan Marshall, has put together another fantastic season for this Crusaders team. He's got a ton of touchdowns on the ground. It's up to 15 right now, and also only one fumble on the season. He's also got 4 receiving touchdowns for 333 yards. So you take a look at players that are really wanting, especially to get some revenge against Springfield, because you take a look at Moeller in the past few seasons. The last 2 years have been the first time that Moeller has made it to the state semifinals since back in 2014. So this Crusaders team, they made it back in 2014, went on a dry spell where they weren't making it to the regional, weren't making it to the state semifinals. They weren't winning Region 4. Now, the past 3 seasons now that they won last night, they've made it to the state semifinals. And now, for the 3rd straight season, they've got to face Springfield to try to make it to the state championship. Back in 2021, Springfield knocked Moeller out of the postseason in the state semifinals. Last year, 2022, Springfield knocked out Moeller in the state semifinals. This year, Springfield will face Moeller in the state semifinals. So this Crusaders team, they've got a lot of, I would say, bad beef with Springfield with what's happened the past few seasons. So this Crusaders team, they've got a chip on their shoulder. They want to win this football game coming up, and there's a good chance that they're going to be able to because, like you mentioned, Jackson, Springfield, the other thing that Moeller has been good at so far this season, stopping the run, Springfield, they've switched from an air raid team to a run-heavy team. So it fits to Moeller's play style and how they've been playing defensively a lot better than it has the past few seasons.
And we talk a lot about the Springfield Wildcats. They are also punching their ticket to the state Final Four. Once again, the 12th seed in their Cinderella run, regional champs in Region 2, as they take down Dublin Kaufman 21-14. What an incredible season. What a roller coaster season for the Springfield Wildcats here in this one.
And yeah, you take a look at 5-5 during the regular season. They had their struggles. They had their convincing wins, such as St. Ignatius at the very start of the season. And then they had, obviously, the injuries at the quarterback position. They had Aaron Scott, their Ohio State commit at the cornerback position, go play quarterback for quite a few plays during this season. So if that goes to show how bad the quarterback room situation got for Springfield, if a cornerback commit to Ohio State playing quarterback doesn't tell you how much the Springfield Wildcats were struggling when it came to the healthiness of their quarterback room, I don't know what will when you have your cornerback playing quarterback for your team. So Springfield, they had their struggles when it came to the quarterback room with the injuries. They had two players such as Brent Upshaw, but since then, coming into this postseason, the Wildcats have been healthier. They've been getting those players back, and they've been getting those players back into the rotation. So this Wildcats team, obviously 5-5 during the regular season, but since the quarterback room is healthier than it was midway through the season where they had Aaron Scott running that offense, it's not too surprising to me that Springfield is the 12th seed just because they've got Mo Douglas as their head coach, a phenomenal coach for the Springfield Wildcats. We've seen what this team has been able to do under him these past few seasons. It's not too surprising that Springfield, their backs against the wall, 5-5 at the end of the regular season, a lot of people counting them out early, myself included, making it to the state semifinal. It's not too surprising that when you take a look at who they've got as a head coach, the fact that they've been getting healthier as this postseason has gone on and leading into the postseason, there's a few things that just come to mind and kind of show that Springfield, a lot of people might have counted them out, and a lot of people might have said they were down and there was no chance they make it this far this year. But with the organization that they've got and with the facilities they've got, with the community they've got, it's not too surprising seeing Springfield as the 12th seed make the run they made this postseason.
Yeah, and I was about to mention that the injuries in the quarterback room for Springfield, because on the surface, it's a 5 versus a 12 seed, which is wild enough as it is in the state Final Four, having a 5 seed and a 12 seed both make it. And however, Springfield has gotten healthier. Springfield has looked better. A 38-14 win over Wayne, a 14-3 win over Northmont in the final game of the regular season, knocking off the Centerville Elks, the GWalk champion, facing the Olentangy Braves and winning by double digits over them. Just a really I'm sorry, trying to find the words, but a gutsy performance and a gutsy year for the Springfield Wildcats. And these guys are motivated out of their minds right now, being a 12 seed and making it this far. So it's going to make that Moeller-Springfield game it's going to be one that's going to be really hard to call, because Moeller is wanting some revenge after losing in 2021 and in 2022. And Springfield is the team that we had kind of expected Springfield to be when we talked about them at the start of the season, just with the rushing attack instead of the passing attack. So it's going to be a tough game to call, but it's going to be a really, really fun matchup.
Yeah, John, and let's take a look at the other matchup for the state semifinal. We will see Hilliard-Bradley, the 2 seed. They knocked off Upper Arlington in double overtime yesterday at the historic Columbus Crew Stadium, 35-28. Hilliard-Bradley, they will square off against St. Edwards, the number 1 team in the state of Ohio for Division I football. St. Ed's coming off a 42-7 win against Medina, a Region 1 and Region 3 matchup in the state semifinals.
And yeah, the half of the bracket that's got Moeller versus Springfield is where it seems like it was kind of silly season during this entire OHSAA postseason, because you've got, obviously, Moeller. They've been around that top 10 team in the state. They've been inside and then outside of the top 10 when it came to the final AP poll. Like I said, if you continue down from 10 further down, they were number 12 at the end of the regular season. And then you've got Springfield, who was not even close to being considered a top 10 team in the entire state of Ohio. And then you flip the page over to the other side of the bracket, where you've got Hilliard-Bradley versus St. Ed's. It's number 6 in the entire state in Hilliard-Bradley. They've played some spoiler against some pretty good teams so far this postseason. Then you've got the number 1 team in the entire state of Ohio in Division I football, being St. Ed's. So this half of the bracket, it makes a little bit more sense. You've got 2 top 10 teams in the entire state of Ohio, being Hilliard-Bradley at 6, St. Ed's at 1. Then the other side, you've got Moeller, who would be 12th if they continued from the top 10 and moved further down to, say, maybe the top 15. And then Springfield, who, coming into the postseason, was not even considered to be a top 10 team in the entire state of Ohio for Division I football. So you've got the half of the bracket that makes sense, Hilliard-Bradley versus St. Ed's, and then you've got the half of the bracket that, when you look at the teams, it makes sense that they're both here, but with how both teams have been ranked and how both teams have played so far this season, at least one of them being Springfield. Like I said, I can almost guarantee you, outside of Springfield fans, I wouldn't say there was a lot of people saying that the Wildcats were going to make it this far in the postseason.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that with the Hilliard-Bradley Upper Arlington game, not necessarily the result, but the fact that that was the only game in the state of Ohio to reach overtime, which is for this, it's just kind of a weird expectation sort of thing, even though it doesn't make logical sense. Because normally at this stage, you're expecting a lot of really close matchups, a lot of overtimes, and while we certainly got close matchups, we also got a lot of shutouts on this slate of games. So just a little weird, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call it coincidence, but it's something like that, where you only have one game going into double overtime. But regardless, Hilliard-Bradley, anytime you can win, you can grind out a gutsy win, it helps you immensely when it comes to games further down the line. And if you get into real battles, and against St. Edwards, it's gonna be a real tough battle for Hilliard-Bradley. So it's gonna be a fun matchup. Division I, always a fun division to watch, and this year's no exception.
And with that all being said, it is time for a break. When we return, we will move on and make our Week 15 game picks. Only 2 more weeks left in our football game picks. After our football game picks, we're moving to basketball game picks as well. But nonetheless, we're still in football season. Week 15 game picks coming up when we return to Sports Now.
Come on, guys, let's call Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
How you doing?
So the furnace is on its last leg, babe. And I just don't know what to do.
I wish I could be there to help.
Being away is always difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions together. You can count on us to keep your family comfortable.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
When are you coming home?
It's gonna be soon. Faster than you know it, I'll be home.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. It's easy to take the air in your home for granted. But it's not just about being hot or cold. It's about having clean air. For some of us, this is critical. At McAfee, we'll provide you with long-term solutions to improve the air you breathe.
Do you need your inhaler, bud?
Oh, I'm good, thanks.
Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Back here to Sports Now, Jackson Lightcap, Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder. Final 30 minutes of this 3-hour show. We've gone through all the regions, all 28 regions. We've also talked about all 7 divisions of football that we want to talk about. So now let's circle back, and it's time for drum roll, please.
I don't know if anyone can hear that or not, but I'm tapping on the table.
I can hear it, and
I can definitely hear it.
Shaking
Okay,
as well. If John can hear it, I would assume everybody could probably hear it.
Game picks, week 15 game picks. And when we take a look at the week 15 game picks, we have 2 more weeks left in the football season. After football season is concluded, we will start our basketball season picks as well. But when we look at our picks and our standings, leading the way, our very own Matt Pennington. He's in first place, 59-25. Tim Capel and myself, we are both tied for second at 53-31, 6 games back from first. Jon Snyder, what an incredible run that he has gone on. He is 7 games back, 52-32. But you look at his last 3 weeks, and he is 23-4 in those last 3 weeks. David Marshall, 9 games back, 2-6 week for him. Not a great playoff week, 50-34. And Kevin Fowler, the owner of the TKDS Sports Network, 16 games back, 43-41 on the year.
Tell you what, John, I don't know where you got it from me, but Jackson brought it up in the group text. There was a message you sent after going 1-4, and you're like, man, I kind of need to turn this around. Like I said, I'm saying this because when I went 1-4, I said I need to turn it around, and since then I've shot up and 8-0 week for you last week. Crazy.
Apparently that's the key. Just go 1-4 and say you need to turn it around, and you'll turn it around.
That might be it.
Man, there's a reason why I haven't been able to turn it around. I haven't had a 1-4 week. My worst week was 2-3. Dang it. That's why I've been pretty average all year long. But no, John a couple weeks ago, he was in the cellar behind Kevin Fowler. But what an incredible postseason run from John. And John has now once again entered the conversation of claiming second, third, or fourth. Matt, you're running away with it. But you look at between second, third, fourth, and fifth, those spots, I mean, there's only 3 games separating everyone. So that's where the majority of the competition is right now. Matt, congratulations. You're running away with it, but
it's not.
It could be worse. At least you're on the winning side of things. Kevin Fowler, the owner, I know he's watching this show. I always like giving him a shout out, and I always like messing with him a little bit on this show because I know he's watching. He's had multiple 1-4 weeks, but he has not said he needs to turn it around.
I think you're just being mean at this point. The amount of times you've done
Hey,
this.
give Kevin credit. He's still over 500.
That is true.
That is true.
I'm going to see Kevin here right after the show anyway, so it'll give us something to talk about. We all love Kevin Fowler here on the TKDS Sports Network. It's just funny to mess with him a little bit.
You guys are going to be fighting at Wittenberg later.
Nonetheless, let's move on to our game picks. We'll start with the Division 7 state semifinal, Marion Local versus Patrick Henry.
I'll start this one off. I'm going to go with the Flyers just because of how dominant. It's not just because of how dominant they looked yesterday, but just as a season. This Flyers team, there's a reason they're back-to-back state champions. There's a reason that in the last 13 years, there has been 1 year they didn't make it to the state semifinals, and that was the COVID year. I'm going with the Flyers in this one. The program as a whole, the community as a whole. I mean, you take a look at not just the gameplay on the field, but the stands. At Piqua last night, Marion Local almost had the entire home side of Alexander Stadium up in Piqua filled with blue and gold. So I'm going to go with the Flyers in this one. The community's going to travel well. I even heard a story that there was a wedding going on a Friday night, and almost everybody at the wedding had their phones up, and during the wedding had their phones with the game on. That goes to show how well-rounded and well-knit this community is. So I'm going to go with the Flyers in this one over Patrick Henry. And I said it last night, I think Marion Local's the team that should be coming away as Division 7 state champions this year.
Yeah, agreed. Marion Local's the team to beat. And I think they've got too much firepower on offense and defense. They've got all the history on their side. They're more than likely going to have the crowd on their side. I personally think Marion Local.
I'm going with the Flyers as well, and the Flyers, the reason why I'm going with them is because it's their state championship to lose. I mean, I'm not going to go against Marion Local the rest of the season because Marion Local, they've proven that. They've proven that over the last couple of years. You can't go against them because in their last 71 games, they're 68-3 in their last 71 games. So when you look at what Marion Local brings to the table, they got the history. And here's another argument you can bring to the table. And I'm also shocked that you guys didn't bring this up. Ansonia was the number 2 team in the state of Ohio. And Marion Local beat them 48-0. The number 2 team in the state of Ohio. Not a team outside, not the 2 seed in the region, team outside the top 10. The number 2 team in the state of Ohio for Division 7 football, Marion Local beat them 48-0. Marion Local, they're legit. They're winning it all. Give me Marion Local. Moving on, another MAC team, Versailles versus Columbus Grove.
Give me Versailles in that one. Again, MAC school, very dominant performance against Anna last week. Columbus Grove, again, a very solid program, but 17 points scored for Columbus Grove. Versailles has a solid defense, and I just expect Versailles to have the firepower to see them through. Give me the Tigers.
Give me the Tigers as well. I like Versailles. They're from the Midwest Athletic Conference. What's not to like about the Midwest Athletic Conference? Very tough division, very tough conference. Versailles, they're battle-tested. They've been tremendous all year long. I think that they win this one. Columbus Grove, a great team, but I'm high on Versailles, and I'm kind of going with them in the same boat as Marion Local. It's their state championship to lose. I love what Versailles brings to the table. I'm going Versailles until they prove otherwise. Give me the Tigers in this one, and I think it'll be a close game, but Versailles is going back to the state championship.
I'm going to go with the Tigers as well. I wouldn't say it's their state championship to lose because there's Garraway and Kirtland still in Division 6, and both of those 2 teams, very, very, very good teams, very dominant teams so far this year. So I wouldn't say it's Versailles' state championship to lose, but it's a MAC school. How can you pick against a MAC school this late into the postseason? Give me Versailles over Columbus Grove. And I see the Tigers punching their ticket to the state championship.
Valley View versus Liberty Center. Matt, John, I am very high on the Valley View Spartans. I've been that way all year long. but it just, to me, over the last couple of weeks, I feel like that they have had some film come out on them, and it really sparked after that Week 10 loss against Waynesville. And I love what Valley View can do. They have a high-scoring offense, but you look at what Liberty Center is able to do. That's a terrific defense. And Liberty Center, I think that defense, in the end-all be-all, I just have a feeling, a gut feeling that defense is going to have its way with Valley View. And again, you look at Liberty Center, the defense, look at how many shutouts, look at how many games. They've only had 4 games where they've allowed 10 or more points. Liberty Center, that defense is great. I love Valley View. I love the Spartans. I love what they're doing this season. I think that they are going to be here for years to come, but unfortunately, I think that they fall short against Liberty Center. That defense is going to have their way. Give me Liberty Center in this one. I think it's going to be a close game and scores right around the teens to 20s. I do think Valley View's offense puts up points, but I don't think that they're going to put up 46 per game like they usually do. Liberty Center wins this one.
Yeah, Jackson, I've been super high on the Spartans all season long, but I don't think I could have said it really any better myself. The time during the season where I started having my questions for this Valley View team, and it's not that they were questions of this team isn't going to make it to the state semifinals, which is where they're at now, or maybe even a state championship game, but the struggles they had against Eaton, the struggles they had against Edgewood, obviously those are teams that are in higher divisions than this Valley View team, but you take a look at what Valley View was expected to do against pretty much every single Southwestern Buckeye League team this season. The first half of that game against Edgewood, it was very, very close between the two teams. Obviously, the final score wasn't that close. It was a 23-point win for the Spartans, but those types of struggles and those types of issues, same with the Eaton game, they had similar issues in that one. Obviously, they had some issues against Waynesville the first time they played them. That's their only loss of the season, but it's those slight glaring issues for this Valley View Spartans team that you don't really see with Liberty Center. This Tigers team has just, as you mentioned, Jackson, they've just been dominant pretty much all season long. Not really many close games. Coldwater, the closest game that they've played so far this season. But that's Coldwater. It's a team out of the MAC conference in Division 5. The Cavaliers are always a good team and always a tough team to play, and they won by 10. So I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one. They're going to take down the Valley View Spartans. I'd love to see Valley View move on, but I don't see that happening. I see the Tigers punching their ticket to the state championship.
Yeah, I think what this game is going to come down to is, can the Liberty Center defense hold off the dual threat that Caden Henson can use for Valley View? And with the defense they've had, I think they can pull it off. Give me Liberty Center on that one.
Alter versus Steubenville.
I'm going to go with the Alter Knights in this one. The team as a whole so far this postseason has just looked absolutely dominant. Obviously, they have those 3 losses during the regular season, but they've also pretty much been punching up the entire season. The losses that they had a loss against Trotwood, Division III team. They had a loss against Baden, one of the top 2 teams in the entire state of Ohio for Division III. Trotwood's also was inside that top 10. And then against the Fairmont Firebirds, a Division I team, and they only lost that game by a field goal. 24-21 was the final score of that game. Give me the Alter Knights in this one. Steubenville's put up a pretty good season themselves, but outscoring opponents by 102 points this postseason, that doesn't happen by mistake, especially not with who Alter's played so far in this postseason. Give me the Alter Knights in this one.
This is one that it's a tough decision, honestly. But, I mean, I have to agree with Matt. Give me the Alter Knights. That defense has been on a level that I don't think, a level that just is not seen very often at this stage of the year. So give me the Alter Knights in that one. That defense has been incredible.
So we have John and Matt, the two hottest personnel when it comes to game picks right now. Do I go with them or do I go against them?
It's up to you. You make the pick.
I'm going to go Steubenville. Give me Steubenville in this one. I love what Alter's doing right now. John, I know you're typing on the document. I threw you off guard there. Give me the Big Red. I think that the Big Red, when you look at the schedule that they've been able to play this season, they've been able to play some great teams, especially out of the state as well. And you look at some of the scores that they've put up, that offense is legit. Their defense worries me a little bit against the high-powered Alter Knights squad. Alter can win this game if their defense steps up. But if Steubenville, if it comes down to it being a shootout, give me the Big Red. I think that the Big Red's offense is going to prevail over that terrific Alter defense. They're going to find a way. I think Steubenville, they're going to be the ones to pull it out, and Alter, that Cinderella run, will come to a close. Salina versus Bishop Watterson.
Give me Bishop Watterson. I think Salina's had a great run. Obviously, making it to the state Final Four is no small feat, but Bishop Watterson has had a very solid resume throughout the regular season and throughout this postseason, and I think they've just got too much talent for the Bulldogs. Give me Bishop Watterson.
Up to me now, huh?
Yeah, you get to go. You get to go next, Jackson, on this one.
This is an interesting game because when you look at Bishop Watterson and when you look at Salina, these two teams, they are not in the top 10 in the state of, actually, I beg your pardon, Bishop Watterson is 4, Salina is not in the top 10. But when you look at what they both bring to the table, Salina, they're playing their best football right now. They're coming out of a very tough conference. That defense is legit. But I got to go with Bishop Watterson. I like what Bishop Watterson brings to the table. I think that they're going to have their way with Salina. Salina, that Cinderella run is going to come to a close for the Bulldogs this upcoming week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bishop Watterson and the Eagles as well in this one. I mean, you take a look at obviously the Cinderella run that Salina's been on. You cannot talk bad about what the Bulldogs have been able to do this postseason. The 6th seed in a very, very tough and a very, very highly contested Region 12, being the team that comes out of that region, taking down teams such as Trotwood, taking down teams such as Tippecanoe, taking down Baden last night. This Salina Bulldogs team has had a phenomenal run so far this postseason, but so have the Eagles. And the Eagles have played some pretty tough competition as well. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. I think the Bulldogs' Cinderella run and their run in this postseason comes to a close next Friday night, and the Eagles, they're going to be making it to the state championship.
Anderson versus Massillon, Washington. I'm going to go with the team that has orange and black.
You're cheating again, I see. No.
Massillon, Washington, hey, it's their season. I think that we're going to have a Massillon, Washington, Hoban state final game, state championship game, and that would probably be the game of the year in the state of Ohio if that were to be the case. Massillon, Washington, I like what they're doing. I like what they're bringing to the table. Anderson, that's a terrific offense, but that defense, a very underrated defense, but that defense has shown some inconsistency all year long, and especially being in the Eastern Cincinnati Conference as well. That's their style of play. I think Massillon, Washington handles Anderson pretty well. Massillon, Washington, again, hey, it's their year. Go win it.
I'm going to go with the Tigers as well in this one. I mean, you talk about, and Jackson, you brought it up, Massillon, Washington versus Hoban. That's who I expect to be in the state championship game. I expect Hoban to take down Avon. That's the matchup that they have this upcoming week. But you talk about this high-octane Anderson Raptors offense. The defense has looked good so far this season, but I don't think it's looked good enough to slow down what the Tigers bring to the table. Massillon, Washington, they're the number 1 team in the state of Ohio for Division II for a reason, and I think they're going to show the reason why they are the number 1 team in the state of Ohio for Division II football, and I think they're going to take down Anderson next week.
I really want to go Anderson. I really want to, but Massillon, Washington has just done too much in the regular season. I mean, you look back and the resume that they have is among the best in the state at this point. I mean, they beat St. Edwards. You can't really go against that. Give me Massillon on this one.
Moeller versus Springfield, guys. I'll start this one off. I'm going Moeller. I think they've just played a tougher schedule. Springfield, their Cinderella run's going to come to a close. I like what the Springfield Wildcats have been able to do, especially in this postseason, but it comes down to strength of schedule in this one. Moeller, they've played the tougher schedule. They're more battle-tested than Springfield. They've won more meaningful games than the Springfield Wildcats. I like the Crusaders in this one. They will get back to the state championship.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm going to go with the Crusaders as well on this one. They're going to snap that back-to-back losing streak against the Springfield Wildcats in the state semifinal. Moeller, they're going to take the matchup this year. Springfield, you can't ask for a better Cinderella run or a better run in this postseason with how the regular season went for this Wildcats team. So give me the 5 seed from Region 4. I'm going to go with the Moeller Crusaders in this one.
Apparently, we're really all on the same page this week. So, because I'm going with Moeller too. You mentioned earlier that Moeller has a really brilliant run defense, and Springfield has switched to a rushing attack focus throughout the latter part of this year. And it does play into Moeller's hands, not to mention, we mentioned how difficult it is to get 2 wins in the same year against conference opponents. You know, you play them in conference and play them in the postseason. How much harder is it to go 3 straight for 3 years against the team? Give me the Moeller Crusaders.
And it is time for a break. When we return, we'll take a look at basketball. Women's high school basketball tips off this upcoming Wednesday. We're getting all the action. That's all coming up next for the final 10 minutes of the show on Sports Now.
At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down.
It's okay.
Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down.
It's okay.
Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee. At McAfee, we understand that life doesn't stop when something in your home breaks down.
It's okay.
Our customers count on us to be there, ready when they need us.
Is there anything else you need from me?
No, sir. I have all the information I need.
Great, thanks. Just lock the door on the way out.
Thank you.
Let us get your home up and running again. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Jackson Lightcap, Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder, the final 5 minutes of the show. But we also wanted to take this time and say basketball season is here. Women's high school basketball in the Southwest region of Ohio tips off on Wednesday. Men's high school basketball will tip off the following week. So we will talk about men's high school basketball a little bit more on this show next week, but women's high school basketball right around the corner. And guys, some of the top teams that I'm keeping an eye out on, there's two within the Greater Western Ohio Conference. The Springboro Panthers going to the districts. Actually, I beg your pardon, the regional semifinals a season ago. What an incredible run. They had a super young team. And then, of course, the Fairmont Firebirds. They made it to the district final, unfortunately lost. But they had a couple of freshmen on that team that is returning as well. Fairmont Firebirds, Panthers. It's going to be a fun duo to watch. It's going to be a fun couple of teams to watch in the Greater Western Ohio Conference.
Yeah, you've obviously got, like you mentioned, another team from the GWalk that I'm also wanting to keep an eye out on is Beaver Creek. You take a look at what that team was expected to look like and what they were expected to do when it came to GWalk play last year for girls basketball. They weren't expected at the start of the season to really do much. It was a super young team over in Beaver Creek, and they ended up going on an absolute tear when it came down to in-conference play, when it came to out-of-conference play. But there's another team that I've got in mind. They've always been good when it comes to girls basketball. They've always been pretty good when it comes to guys basketball, and I'm looking forward to what this team does in both guys and girls basketball. But I'm taking a look at the Altar Knights. The Altar Knights have always been a good girls basketball team. They've also always had a good guys basketball team, making it to the Elite Eight a season ago. And this year, they're going to have R.J. Greer, one of the top prospects in the southwest area of Ohio for guys basketball. But just overall as a whole, I'm looking forward to seeing it pains me to say it because I'm a Fairmont alum, but you know that Altar, when it comes to basketball, both guys and girls, you know that those teams are always going to be stout. They're always going to be tough to beat. And they're always going to be teams that you got to look out for, especially when it comes to the postseason. Both teams, pretty good postseason runs last year. Would not be surprised if they do it again this year.
Yeah, a lot of talent in the GWalk this year, especially those three teams that you mentioned, and a lot of talent that's still left to be showcased next years. But there's another team I'm looking at, though, and it's not even in the GWalk. To be honest, it's going to be hard for me to go against Tri-Village this year. With how dominant they were last year, only losing 3 seniors, retaining a lot of their roster, and Tri-Village, with how well they performed throughout last year, it's going to be a really tough ask for me to, if I'm asked to pick against them, it's going to be a really tough ask for me to do so. The Tri-Village Patriots, very solid basketball program that they have over there. Definite WOAC favorite, if not state title favorite.
And John, Matt, another team I want to keep an eye on, West Clermont. Remember, West Clermont, when it came to women's basketball a year ago, was undefeated in the regular season, but they were upset early on against Talawanda in the sectionals. They lost a tremendous senior class. You look at their roster this year, a lot of sophomores, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sophomores on this squad, including a freshman, 1 junior, and 2 seniors. West Clermont, I'm not expecting them to have the season like they had a year ago because of the senior class they lost, but this is still a terrific program. I'm expecting to see these sophomores grow, and here in a couple of years when they're seniors, this may be another West Clermont team we are talking about being undefeated, and that will take us to the end of our 3-hour show. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. It's always fun to get together on a Saturday morning.
There's one more team real quick before we end, but for girls basketball, if you're not looking at Purcell Marion, you're not looking in the right place when it comes to girls basketball. Purcell Marion is another team that probably going to be poised for another state title this year.
They've won it back-to-back years, but with that being said, takes us to the end of our show. Alongside Matthew Pennington, Jon Snyder, Kevin Fowler, our producer, I'm Jackson Lightcap. Thanks for dealing with us for the last 3 hours. The show schedule for Sports Now a little iffy this week because of the holiday, so make sure to follow us on social media at TKDS Sports. That's where the show schedule this week will be posted because, again, it's a holiday. But until then, we'll talk to you when we talk to you. See you next time.